So my name is Jackie McGlade, and I'm here from Kenya, mainly because of Terry. I came here on his invitation, but also because when I created a startup company a year ago to try and fix a lot of the problems that this conference is about, he was the one that reached out, and it was through that kind introduction to what was happening on the ground that really inspired me to think about RCS, a kind of home, from Kenya to Australia. For me, one of the big end-to-end discussions is how do we connect what we eat every day with our health and actually looking after the planet. And regenerative farming is just one entry point. And my big message is, when I visit, and I've worked with communities all over the world, I'm working with people who have never had to have that message taken away from them because they've never left this way of living and working and eating. And so in a sense, having the best food coming into your system from the day you're born means that you really get a sense of what is good. And therefore, looked at from the outside, you may be having a frugal life. But actually, it's an abundant life because it's full of nutritious, good, healthy living. So my message is frugal abundance. It sounds like a contradiction, but I like to tack on the end the science of deliciousness. And it's the science of deliciousness that gets us through the hurdle of what frugal abundance is all about. It's living in a very even and good way with the land that we have, but being able to bring up generations of people who've got full cognitive development and really understand how they're going to make a contribution to society and to life on planet Earth. Frugal abundance is sort of like the practical side of things. It flies in the face of all these things that say people who live on $1 a day are poor. I live with people who have no money a day, and they are not poor in any sense of the word, other than they don't have cash in their hands. But it's led me over the last few years to come with a very different idea, a sort of theory, a philosophy called natural prosperity. And we think we understand what prosperity is. We think we understand what well-being is. But in fact, when you work with a lot of peoples who are rural in their living, and you ask them what prosperity means, they'll talk about the environment, they'll talk about community, they'll talk about access to water, to people, to education, power of voice. And money in the bank is never in the equation. And so I really have come around to thinking that we need to reshape this idea of prosperity. So I've gone back to the theories of philosophy, of Locke and all these others, and try to establish a new economy, a new form of economics, not ecological economics, but a natural form of that, which is linked directly to prosperity rather than just the money in the bank. There are many challenges ahead of us, and time is not on our side. I think anyone who just looks outside of their local environment is going to see the climate changing at such an amazing rate. And with that urgency in mind, it's very easy to become tunnel vision, to think, oh, I'll just focus on this, I'll get this right, and that's going to help me get to the next bit. It's going to get me on the right pathway. And what we actually have to force people to do is keep looking upwards, looking out, and trying to connect what they're doing. And one of the greatest things I believe that will help us in the future to face all these challenges is to create networks, to create people connections. And ironically, one of the best things that happened because of COVID was that the world suddenly evened up. For people in the developing world who could never afford to travel to those expensive meetings in New York, in Geneva, all over the world, suddenly we're on Zoom. Everybody's the same. And ironically, I'm sitting in Nairobi, and my 4G is stronger than somebody sitting in the rural environment in Europe. I don't drop my line, I'm always on. And I noticed that in that 2-year period, there were so many more voices being heard and feeling empowered to get their messages over. And what we really need to do is to keep that dynamic going, to face all the little challenges that will come every day. Like, I switched to regenerative and my crop failed, and phone a friend, phone a farmer who may have had the same experience. You may not want to shout it out, but find out somebody who had problems and share that problem. And I actually think that's what's going to happen from the farming side more and more, like RCS has been able to bring people together, train them together. It's not just the training, it's the being together. And we say in the Maasai, If you can't see it, you can't believe it. If you can't feel it, you can't believe it. And so that living experience and being able to exchange that with other people, that's how we're going to face the challenges as we go forward in the next 10 years. One of the great things about being here in Brisbane is not only is it a great place to come to, but coming here to a room full of people, a conference centre full of people who are all inspired to try to do better, to have that integrity. And it's infectious. So it means that no one is going to leave this meeting without something being changed and exchanged and put into the heart to take away. We say in the Maasai, you can go a long way very quickly on your own, but if you really want to arrive at your destination in a good way, you go with many people. A single bangle makes no noise, but a whole armful of bangles makes a lot of noise. And I think that's what we're doing here. We're sort of exchanging things and taking them away to wear as we go out into the wider world. And that's what I'm going to do. Even after half a day, I already feel like I've got plenty of bangles on my arms, and I'm going to take away something with many messages.